Hello, my name is Earl Smith, and I'm the author of Downeast Genius, a book of Maine inventors. And I'm going to read to you from, as it turns out, it's chapter 8, called Cover Your Ears. Just the greenwood had big ears. Not so big as to cause embarrassment, but far too big for a Farmington boy who liked to while away the winter afternoons skating on frozen ponds. By 1874, at age 16, he had flirted with frostbite one too many times and set about to find a way to avoid the suffering. His creation was startlingly simple. With the help of his grandmother, he sewed a patch of beaver fur to each end of a piece of spring wire and clamped the apparatus on his head. He may have drawn a few stares at the beginning, but any ridicule quickly turned to envy. Barely 2 winters passed before most everyone in town wanted a pair of his cozy ear mufflers. The young inventor was barely 19 in March of 1877 when he applied for and received a U.S. patent, not for earmuffs. Earmuffs had been patented before, but for the V-shaped hinge he had devised to keep the muffler tight to his ears. With license in hand, he set up a factory on Front Street in West Farmington, where the mufflers, stitched at home by local weavers, were assembled. By 1833, the factory was turning out nearly 50,000 pairs a year. The Champion Ear Protection Company soon became Farmington's leading industry, and the tiny Sandy River town, with a population of around 3,300, was the undisputed earmuff capital of the world. Farmington earmuffs were issued to American troops fighting in France during World War I, and following the war, annual production soared upward each year to nearly 500,000 by 1936. Although hooded jackets and caps with attached ear flaps eventually ate away at the earmuff market, memories of its heyday are kept alive by Chester Greenwood Day, an annual Farmington celebration held on the last day of December. Those who still like to wear earmuffs, along with those who resurrect them from their closets, join a gala parade to invigorate the chilly but warming center of town. However, the celebration is not entirely about earmuffs, as Greenwood's first invention was only one of many. Over his lifetime, the skilled mechanic created some 130 devices. Many were patented. At the time of his death in 1937, the Smithsonian Institute ranked him among America's 15th most outstanding inventors. Among his inventions was the now ubiquitous steel leaf rake, a shock absorber akin to the one used in modern airplanes, an improvised spark plug, a decoy moose trap, a donut hook. I'd like to have seen that decoy moose trap. A donut hook, and the forerunner of today's folding bed. Along the way, he established and ran a successful bicycle shop, and at the end of the century, co-founded with C.A. Allen, the Franklin Telephone and Telegraph Company that manufactured its own transmitters and receivers. Greenwood's wife, Isabel Whittier, was famous in her own right. An early suffragist, she vigorously campaigned on behalf of women before they had the right to vote. In conservative Maine, her success came not so much from a moral awakening as from the fallout of the Industrial Revolution her husband had helped to bring about. Women were taking jobs in factories everywhere and often dominating the workforces in the main textile mills. Isabel Greenwood was among the few who stood to defend their working rights. And that's the end of that chapter. Did that work out all right for you? On Bean's boots from Downeast Genius. Leather had been used for making outdoor shoes since man first began to walk upright. And the world of footwear didn't change much until the Middle Ages, when the Gauls attached wooden soles and called them galoshes. Generations of feet suffered, and another 4 centuries passed before the cobblers thought to take Charles Goodyear's discovery and mold boots made of rubber. They weren't much good either. The rubber often punctured, letting the boots take in water that promptly froze around the toes, and worse than that, the new galoshes were fastened with metal clips that bent or broke in the wrestling required to get them on. Weary of wet feet, frostbite, and bloody knuckles, by the 20th century, outdoor people were overripe for something new. As with many other successful entrepreneurs, the early life of Leon Leonwood Bean was pocked by tragedy and hardship. Born in the tiny town of Greenwood in 1872, he was orphaned at the age of 12 when both of his parents died within days of each other. Leon and his 5 siblings were sent to live with relatives in South Paris, where his love of the outdoors soon outdistanced any fondness for classrooms. After a single term at Hebron Academy, he turned to the Maine woods for his education and soon became an inventor, hunter, trapper, and a fisherman. Although his disdain for cold, wet feet became part of the lore, it is likely he was looking out for more than his own comfort when, in 1911, at age 39, he designed a new kind of waterproof boot with rubber bottoms and laced soft leather tops. The following year, he hired a cobbler to make a few pairs and mailed a crude flyer to all licensed Maine hunters, touting his new hunting boot and guaranteeing satisfaction. His warranty was promptly tested, as most of the first 100 pairs were defective. It was a crushing blow to a man who dreamed of making a fortune, but he promptly sent each customer a refund. What might have been a business disaster turned out to be a boon to L.L. Bean, who had firmly established his reputation as a merchant who truly would sell only quality goods and satisfy every customer. Thereafter, the company never sold an item that wasn't first tested for quality and endurance, and the refund policy was underscored with every sale. Following his initial hiccup in 1911, Bean procured a $400 loan and headed to Boston, where the United States Rubber Company helped him make improved boot bottoms with a chain pattern. In 1917, he hired a few skilled cutters and sewers and moved his tiny operation out of the basement of his brother's Freeport apparel store into an upstairs office over the post office on Main Street. It was a most convenient place. The U.S. Postal Service had recently instituted domestic parcel post, and his brother was the postmaster. With boot making and mailing all in one place, it wasn't long before the tiny post office was overwhelmed by a tide of boots coming down the stairs. The following year, he patented his creation with both the United States and Canada. Although it was registered as the Maine hunting boot, customers never stopped calling them Bean Boots. As his new business got underway, Bean was usually on hand to sell his boots in person, all the while sharing his enthusiasm and wisdom about the outdoors. Gradually, the Freeport store and its famous catalog began to offer more and more items of sporting equipment and outdoor apparel. By 1934, the Bean Factory covered 13,000 square feet, and the catalog had grown to 50 pages. Leon died in 1967 at the age of 94, and his grandson, Leon Gorman, became his successor. The fascinating story of the company's remarkable growth to become a worldwide supplier of outdoor gear is an American classic, and its refinement of the catalog business and sales by mail are the topics of textbooks. Unlike the coming and going fads of other shoe and boot styles, the popularity of the Bean Boot has never stopped rising, and the company still struggles to keep up with the demand from customers who range from serious outdoor people to fashion-conscious college students who rarely venture into the woods but are eager to display their rugged Maine independence. Today, just outside the never-locked doors of the flagship store in Freeport, a giant model of the Bean Boot, size 410, stands in testimony to the man whose inventive ingenuity made him famous and whose business integrity made him a legend.